Okay, so today's goal of this project is to carve something that looks like this, but instead of going through every step and making a video that's extremely long, what I thought I would do is hit the major highlights of the creation process and just kind of go through and show you what I do in the beginning and how it ends up in the end, and just some of the major steps along the way with a little bit of technique thrown in. And for this project, I've got a 2x2 by 6-inch piece of basswood, and I've written on this from the bottom up so that you can see the lower lip of this box is a 1/2 inch, and there's the top of the box. That is about 3/4 of an inch to that line that I've already cut. And then to the lower part of the robe, it's 1 5/8 up to the shoulders, it's 4 1/4. So you just want to kind of sketch those in. And when I'm done with this, here's how I paint him up. So he looks pretty good. He's got a box that he's standing on. I've got a little bittersweet detail that goes along. And on the lower portion, I've got a tone on tone. So I took the green color of the top, which I think is a celery green. I've added a little bit of white to give it a tone on tone, and then I did the vertical pieces like that. So that is how he's going to end up if everything works out. And there's a little bit more work involved in these guys because you're removing a lot more material. But the first step, as I've sort of started on here, is just to carve out with this tool the top of the box. So I'm going to do that, and then the next step will be roughing it out with our Swiss made Feel 725 sweep gouge. And then I'll just exclude the box, of course, but I'm going to rough out the edges and kind of start to work on the shape. Now on this, I've got a few knots right here, and it's impossible to get wood that is totally clear, but in all cases, you don't want this to fall on the face. So I'm probably, looks like I've got something going on here too. So I normally like to carve into the grain like this, but in this case, because of this and that, I'm probably going to make this the front side. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'll pick it up in just a second. Okay, so at this point, I've taken out the top of the box, and then I've reinforced it with my knife to create a stop cut, and then I've come in here and I've just hit the angles. Now I'm just going to work the edge of the box like this on all 4 sides, clean that up, and remove all of that material. Okay, so I've got that taken care of. And then because of these knots on this side and this side, I'm going to go ahead and carve sort of like on the end of this grain. I'm going to put the face on this side. So the next step is to rough out where the shoulders are going to be. And I'm going to do that to both sides. Okay, so I've got them pretty well roughed out, and you can see, you know, I've kind of worked it back a little bit here for the face. Same thing on this side. And the important thing is symmetry. Not highly critical at this stage because we can take care of it later if it's not, but you want to try to start getting the shoulders very equal and symmetrical. So the next step is to carve out the lower part of the brim. And this guy has got a different style cap. He's got the tassel, more traditional style. So just follow the lines that you put in. So I'm going to do that all around. Then I'm going to take my knife create a stop cut. And then I'm going to use this tool to then remove all of the wood underneath the brim against that stop cut. Okay, this is what he should look like at this stage. And you can see I've got everything as symmetrical as I can get it at this stage. And I've just removed all the wood out from the brim. And on this part in the back, I want the brim, or this little tassel, to kind of extend out. So I'm going to remove the wood like this. And I'll clean all this up. This is just rough at this stage. But then what you want to do is put the center line and then draw the face like this with the nose, the beard, that. Kind of looking like this. And the next step is to use this V gouge and then carve out the eyes and underneath the nose. I'm going to use that in combination with this, and probably this knife once I start doing the V cuts to kind of form my stop cuts. And again, I know I'm moving a little bit fast in this video with carving, but some of the earlier videos go through step by step exactly how to do the eyes, so you can check those out. But in this video, again, I just want to kind of give you a little bit more condensed idea of what the process is and how we go through it and how we get the end result. More or less a process type video with a little bit of technique thrown in. So I'm going to go ahead and carve out the eyes and underneath the nose with the tools that I mentioned, and we'll take a look at it then. Okay, I've got the nose roughed out, and the next step is I'm going to create the bridge like this. And then I'm going to carve in against the sides and then create the flat part of the eye like this. And then again on this side, and I'll pick it up at that point. Okay, this is what the Santa should look like at this stage. So what I've done is I've carved out the side of the nose, and I've got the back of the eye very flat on both sides. And I've sketched in the face line, the mustache, and now I'm going to use this extremely tiny, I think it's like a 2mm V gouge, and I'm going to follow the line that I just created. And it just takes a little bit of pressure. And I kind of use my thumb as a guide, just to kind of ease the gouge along. And as hard as you try, it's extremely hard to get it perfect. So you end up going back like on this guy. And you take out little tiny pieces until you get it to where you like it. And then you use the knife and very lightly follow the cut that you just made. Underneath. take out the little chip on the ends, just the tiniest little piece. Pop that out. Same thing on the inside. And then you can tell it's still not quite there. So I've got this extremely tiny sweep gouge, and you just want to take little nibbles. The smallest cuts that you can possibly make. Gotta love these iPhones. They're constantly throwing reminders at you. Everything else. Okay. So he is looking good for now. And you can also take that gouge and just barely push it along to kind of clean up some of that detail. And I'm going to put on the side of the eyes that little bit there, kind of like a eyelid. Like that. All right. Clean out some of this. The next step is going to be carving out the mustache. And for that I have one of my really nice, sharp, deep V gouges that I use. And I'm just going to go in here and follow that line, using my thumb as a guide. And I'll do that to the other side. And then I have another one of these that's a little bit more well-worn, that's a little bit fatter. And I use that to carve out the lower mustache. But you could use this. I just kind of, I don't know, after, you can see I've used this thing so much, it's kind of worn out. But you get used to tools as they age and the amount of material that they take out. And you just kind of build that into your workflow. You kind of get used to them. Always looking at the Santa, kind of cleaning it up where you see that you need to. So I'm going to do that to this side and then carve out under here and clean that up. And the next step will be carving out the beard with this Feel 12 V gouge. So you can see we're just kind of working our way down. Okay, the next step is to follow that cut with your knife. Then we're going to use this tool to remove that material. And then the next step will be to follow the lower and upper portion of the beard with your V gouge. And then you want to follow the knife through that cut and then remove the material against that stop cut with this tool. And this is what he should look like at this stage. And if you look closely, you can see that he's kind of shrugging a little bit. He's got a higher shoulder over here. So, no big deal. We'll just make it match. It's pretty good. Okay, so the next step is to carve out underneath the arms right here. And I'm going to use this V-gouge to kind of detail the outline of sort of the wrist area. And then there's two ways that you can do this. You're basically creating a stop cut down here, so you can carve it out with this tool, or you can just carve it out with this tool. In both cases, you're really just creating a stop cut to pop this material out. And I'm going to keep on going with this. I'm going to use the knife like this. And I've got the mittens here. So you can see I'm just creating a lot of stop cuts. Remove material against those stop cuts. And ultimately, I'm going to keep working along this lower line to kind of define this space. Then the next step will be carving this out, the lower part of the robe. And this is what the Santa should look like at this stage. So I just went through and removed some of that material, redrew my line, and at this stage, it's very tempting to just make this Santa have a robe. But we're not going to do that. We're going to keep going. We got a lot more to do. We're going to remove some of this material, and I've outlined where the boots are going to be. So the first step is just to use this tool, this V-gouge. Just follow the line. You always want to make sure it's as good as it can be. Looks like over here I need to... Okay. So we're going to take the old trusty knife, rotate the Santa, keeping the knife out of the way. Of all the things I like about carving at this table with this jig that I've got set up is that I try to maximize keeping the tool away from your fingers and trying to cut into your fingers. Pretty much everything I do, I'm carving away from myself. When and where possible. So that's what this jig allows you to do. You can carve away from yourself and keep those hands away from the tool. So at this stage, folks, what I'm going to do is just remove some of this material. And again, keep in mind, probably want to take about that much off for the tip of the boot and in from the edges about to here where you've drawn your pencil lines. And again in the back, probably about to here. But you just want to keep doing that all the way around. You're going to turn it like this. Get rid of that material wherever you can to get into that shape. And to do that, I'm going to use this tool, and of course the knife, possibly even this tool a little bit.